All right, so what I'm tying here is my hen flat Sculpin Part 2. It's the articulated version. Uh, this guy I tie for in Alaska loved them so much that he wanted me to make them bigger and articulated to try to catch a bigger trout. So this is what we're going to tie. There's a few more steps in the process if you watch the original video that I did. So we'll go over that. I've already prepped all my material to try to expedite the tying process, but it's going to be a little lengthy. So what I have in the vise is a size 6 streamer hook times 3 long. The thread I'm going to be using is just some 8/0 olive uni, and we'll just get started. So I'm just going to get rolling with some of this on there. Whoop. There we go. And I'll take my thread back to about the hook point. Next, I'm just going to use an olive hen patch. You're going to use a lot of this on this, well, 4 feathers on this fly. And so if you do a dozen, it's going to chew up most of your hen patch. So I go for the smaller feathers for the tail. We're going to ride this thing hook point up, and so these are designed for short strikes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my distance from basically behind the eye or the front of the eye to the hook point of the barb, somewhere in that area. And I'm just going to tie these in one at a time. I find it a little easier. You don't have to be super precise here. We get a couple wraps in. You just want them to be on the side and kind of encompass the hook shank, or the back of the fly, as it were. And do the same thing again. I don't trim them down or anything, so they want to roll on you. So you have to kind of handle them a little bit. Get them nice and tight, and that's pretty much perfect. So I'll put in a few more wraps, and I'm just going to trim them out. Maybe. And we're getting ready to tie these back in, actually. So save that waste, because we're going to tie them back in and use that again. And I'll just tie that all down. You can glue this here if you want. So next I'm going to take both pieces, and I'm going to line them up to the cut tip point. And see if you can see that. And I'm just going to kind of open them up and get the stems. Kind of realign them. Oh, that one slid out on me. Sorry, it's a little harder to do with everything in your face. I'm going to try to do this in one take. Alright. Next, I'm just going to take them both together, tie them in right at the back of the tail. And just wind these up and back. You don't have to be fancy. If you got some stuff here bugging you, you can get it out the way. And cool. And again, you can glue this part if you want to. Whatever you're comfortable with. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a dubbing blend of ice dub. And these are the two dubbings I'm using, Ice Olive Brown and Ice Peacock Black. I'm mixing them about 50-50. So it kind of comes out looking like that. These aren't really necessarily meant for shine so much as they just build up quickly. And if they happen to get a little glitter on there or shone in the water, as it were, more power to the fly, I suppose. But it's really just to help build up an underbody quickly, because it's a thicker dubbing. And I'm just going to kind of twist some on here. We're going to get rolling. And we're just going to work this guy right on up. The back half of this fly is essentially the same as I did my first hen flat sculpin, just without the length. So this hook shank, kind of like I was talking about, it's going to ride hook point up, and this is just going to be the tail of the fly. So we're just covering shank here, we're covering ground, covering stuff up. Use what you want. I'm not sure it's all that big of a deal. And we want to come up to a bodkin or two behind the eye. The head of this back end doesn't make it's not a make or break deal. So just get it on there. You can taper it, you can whatever. The overall length of this fly, the way that I'm tying it now, is going to be about 2 3/4 inches, somewhere right in that neighborhood. All right, we'll just get rid of that. And we can wrap back a little bit. Next, what I want to do is stay put. I'm going to turn. I'm going to take my hackle. I'm going to kind of twist and bend and draw everything to the back, so I double the hackle over on both feathers at the same time. Now, a lot of the time, I don't know if you can see that, what ends up happening when you wrap these, and it's totally cool, I think it actually works a little bit better, is you'll start to get a split. You can't quite see that. There you go. The stems will kind of open up, and I don't actually mind that. I think it actually works a little better. So, but the main thing here is we're just going to double it back. We want all this hackle going to the back, and we're going to just palmer it forward. We want big open turns here. This is just to help create presence in the water, and that's really it. That's all we're looking to do here. And I'm gonna take this all the way up and just chew up a bunch of this feather. And you don't have to be precise here. This is just get it on there, get it done. Looks kind of like a woolly bugger at this point to some degree. And I'm going to well, let me put a couple more in. And we're going to tie this part off and down. And you don't want to be right behind the hook eye like I am here. You want to kind of come back a little bit. So I'm going to build that up, and now I can trim those out. Usually what I trim out with here is my fingernail clippers. I think they just get a little bit closer. Any stuff sticking or protruding seriously out to the side, you can take away. So this is the back end of the fly, or the tail of the fly. And I'm just going to jump back in a little bit, just to make sure I'm tied down. I can come back and take out my stems again. Then what I'll usually do here is just add some crazy glue. And just give it a good whap of crazy glue. The next thing I'm using is some gold crystal flash. This is one of the only materials I have in prep, just so I can show you. These are 2 full-length strands. I even them about up at the tip. I bend them in half like that, and I'll cut them. And I'll do the same thing again. I'll fold them over, get them into the middle, and in half, or roughly half. You can have a little taper to it. You can shorten them even further, whatever you want to do here. I'm tying these for a guy in Alaska, and he wants a lot of flash. So we're giving him a lot of flash out the tail. That's what he wants. So I'll do it. I'll cut them a couple of times till about like that, so that they're sticking out just beyond the tail. And I'm just going to tie these in on the side. And I can kind of move them around if I need to, whatever. I'm going to fold this other half over to the side. Tie these in. Once I have them tied in, I start to move them around just so it kind of encompasses the whole tail. Again, at this point, the top side is not as important as having your flash on the bottom side, because the bottom side, at least in my opinion, I mean, that's the side that's going to be up and running high. So, you know, these things swim on the bottom. So we'll spend just a second here just kind of dispersing all that flash, getting stuck with the hook. And I'm just going to kind of build a little woolly bugger head there, and that's good to go. Now I'm going to wet finish and call this one Gravy. And of course glue again here in just a second. Yeah, that's pretty good. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, there's just a lot of flash. I mean, that's what he wants though, right? You determine how much you want. And I'm going to glue again here. Just put some more on there. So that's the back end of the fly. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a shank that I made for an articulated shank. And what I made these out of is just this Hobart wire. It's .030 stainless steel wire. I think I got this at Tractor Supply Company. It was kind of expensive, 45 bucks, but you can make a crap ton of material. If you're wondering how to do that, you can message me or something. But I highly recommend getting this little tool that you get at like Hobby Lobby or Michael's. It's a beading tool. So you'll find it in the jewelry area. You get this. You'll want a good pair of wire cutters. And then also, you can get this little guy here, just like a little wire bender for a few bucks down at Walmart or something. So those are kind of the tools that you'll need to build this little shank that we're going to use. And I'm just going to slip my shank on. You can also buy them pre-bought, or pre-made, I'm sorry, at the fly shop usually. So you just don't get them custom sizes. So I'm just going to put that in the vise with my hook point riding up. And okay, we're going to get busy again. So I'm just going to take my thread again and come into that bend. I'll put a few wraps in, and I'm going to pinch that together and really start to tighten down on it. And I'm just going to kind of work this. I want to keep my I want to keep it all level and plain. So take your time doing this part, because it wants to move and bend on you, and just fight with it and don't let it do that. Otherwise, because this is going to be your hook eye up front here, and that could shift around on you. So, all right. Tied on, that's for sure. And so I like to get that wire running side by side, and I'll lay down a pretty good thread base here just to start the process of keeping that thing in place. It can be a little bit of a challenge, but eventually it'll go. Okay, now I'm going to just jump to the back. Now on the back one, if you've used these before, you'll know that your side one is going to run to the side like this. The top one is going to run opposite of that, so it's going to run along the top. So you can see that I've got extra buildup on my near side, and I've also got extra buildup on my top side. And that's the way I tie this. A lot of these shanks are tied that way. And so same thing up top, just fight with it until you get it. If you have a little gap in here, don't worry, because this is going to be a dub body, and so it's not going to make a big deal. And then what I'll do once I have kind of everything where I want it, and I can kind of get it to quit moving around on me, is Still sitting a little cattywampus on me. There we go. That's a little better. Okay, now I'll go back to my glue and really just glue the bejesus out of this thing. And then wrap it all together. The only thing I guess I kind of do this a little bit different is I don't really wrap the bejesus out of it. I don't really tighten it, I should say. But I do wrap the bejesus out of it, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and just lock this whole body part down. Just kind of like this until it's sitting basically where I want it. So your shank should be sitting about like that. If you find that it's the eye is turned a little bit, you can, like on this little tool at Walmart, it's got this like little flat block kind of plier deal. You can kind of pinch it and twist it if you need to. It doesn't make a huge deal, but it's like, this is like your one shot at fixing this because after this it's done. So anyhow, next I'm going to go back to my hen grizzly, and this is where I will, off my patch, I will go get some bigger of the feathers, so the bigger tips, and I'm going to do the same thing. All I'm going to do this time is I'm going to run this, if you can kind of see this, I'm going to run this hen somewhere right in there, if you can kind of see that and get a flavor for that. Turn it upside down there, so that I've got like kind of like full coverage. I'm gonna go back to my one that's already tied. I don't know if you can see that or not. Oh, I'm stuck. So I'm halfway into the or about halfway into the back of the hook shank. This is the dangerous part because you tend to get stuck with the hook here. So again, just two loose, fairly loose wraps. Place it. That back half was going to want to fight with you. Don't let that win the battle. You can kind of get stuck a little bit, but it's all right. It's a part of fly tying, man. And then I'm just going to line up my near side. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just so it's close. All right. And I'm just going to put a couple wraps in. Same thing. I'm going to come in and I'm going to trim out these stems. I'm going to tie the rest of this down. Usually my glue's still wet enough that I don't feel that I need to add any more glue right there. Where'd they go? There. And then I'm going to prep these things the same exact way that I did the back half, where I'm just taking it. It's a little easier to do it out of camera. So I'm going to take them and I'm going to prep them so that I'm going to tie them in tip forward with this little diamond again right on the side. And I'm just going to wrap that stuff in. You don't need a pretty underbody on this fly. Perfect. Next, wax your thread. Go back to your dubbing. It's the same process we did on the back half. The back of the front half and the back of the tail are built the same way. No changes. So that part, it keeps it kind of easy, as it were. And it, kind of helps expedite the process just a little bit because you're not like searching for material. You can reuse stuff. You're salvaging things. You're not like wasting parts of feather and going and getting something else. And so, yeah, I'm just going to keep working this guy forward. And you know, this underbody doesn't have to be perfect either. It's a majority of this is going to get covered up. I've had some people ask why I call it a hen flat sculpin. It's pretty easy. This is hen, and we're going to use some turkey flat. Although on the first one I did, we didn't actually use the tip of the feather. We just used the downy part, or the down, or the marabou-ish part of the feather, and that's the flat part. And so we're going to use all of that. Oop, going the wrong way. So now we can cover up that gap pretty nice with just a bunch of dubbing. Once we get on the front side of that gap, about to there, I want to stop. If you want a distance on that for the size that I'm building this hook shank, I should have said, this articulated hook shank is about 1 inch long from tip to tip. So from the bend in that tip to back here is probably what, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 bodkin widths. I'll take a rule to it just so you can kind of get the flavor for it. So I've got a solid 1/8 of an inch there. Maybe 3/16. Okay. Next, we're gonna take our hen. I'm just gonna kind of draw it all up. Start working it back, pulling it down, work it up. You get stuck with a hook. That was awesome. And again. That one, the last one actually made a sound. I wonder if the microphone picked that one up. Sweet. Yeah, you know, so it's dangerous. Be all worth it if you catch a nice trout on this, though. And I'm just going to use all this fluff to come forward. So typically when I'm using a turkey flat for the tips of them, which I'm going to show you here in a second. So I'm just going to catch that in. I'm just going to tie it down, and fold it over, tie it going back, and I'll trim this out with my fingernail clippers. The turkey flat part's coming up next. Well, there's actually 2 turkey flat parts in this one. The other one just had the 1 turkey flat part. Got some geef stuck in there. All right, so typically when I use the this part of the turkey flat, I'm using this as a prop for synthetic material, and so if you ever struggle with like say bigger streamers for pike or something, and like all your material is collapsing like right around the head, try this technique out, because these things stay open. They're fantastic and they're super cheap. You can pick up a bag of these things. They look like this. It's just a turkey flat, so you got all this marabou coming off the back, and you've got this big stiff part in the front. Yeah, these things are wildly fantastic for streamers. So anyway, we're going to do just the opposite. So usually I'm using this as a prop. Instead, this is going to be the prop to prop this open, which is a little bit new technique for me. I've never done this part before until I developed this particular I guess fly, I suppose. So I'm going to turn that in. I'm going to tie that in. I'm going to turn that around, draw it to the back, a few turns. I'm going to trim out the tip. If you get a little extra left over, don't worry about it. And what I'll do next is, you guessed it, go back to my crazy glue. Glue this thing in. And I know there's a lot of people going, when do you add the eyes? When do you add the eyes? Like, you know, that's coming. There's actually a reason why the eyes are not added yet. So anyway, next I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to double the hackle over, draw it to the back. And I'm going to palmer it forward about, no less than 2 turns. And as you're going through, kind of open this thing up, draw it to the back. But I just try to use all this up here. And don't worry about how long it is. If it's like, if it's like way long, like, damn, that one hurt. Long enough to where you're trying to draw it back and stick yourself with a hook. That's awesomeness. But don't worry about that. But you want to keep it as tight as possible up in there. And we'll just cross that over. Man, that one really hurt. I'm not even bleeding, but that one really hurt. Got me in a sensitive spot. And I'll come in with my fingernail clippers and trim that out. I use fingernail clippers because, they cut the stuff well. It doesn't dull your scissors. You can get in there fine. And whatever. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take my thread. It's moved on me. Let me readjust that. So I'm going to take my thread, and you can kind of see right in here where all that stem on that turkey flat is. I'm going to just jump my thread right back into there and start wrapping back just a little bit, put a few wraps in, so that all of this is drawn to the back. And next I'm going to really start to play with this, open it all up, because I want to see how long it is. I don't want it super long. I just want the bulk. And that's why this, like the marabou part of that hen is going to play a key role here, is to keep this propped open. So I want this stuff kind of sparse or spread out, whatever term you want to use. So take your time, play with it, move it around, check all your sides. Because next we're going to glue all this. So there you go, something like that. Next I'm going to take my crazy glue, and I'm just going to kind of draw it all the back, and I'm going to really glue this heavy, because I don't want it to move. Glue all sides, really lay it on there. Let it soak in for a second. I'm going to put a few more wraps in. Kind of working forward, working back, working forward, working back. We're going to kind of smooth some of this out a little bit. So this fly will be able to take some abuse. Next, because I don't want this that long, I just take my fingernails, come in, and I start tearing out all the stems so that I'm getting more of this shaggy effect. Oh, shook everything right there. The Sculpin that's not even alive yet thought the whole world was moving. Okay. And I use my fingernails and just kind of do it at random so that it, kind of keeps it at random. It doesn't, it's not like scissors. You do it with scissors and you're going to get these like really crisp, clean cuts, which, I don't know, it just doesn't look real natural. So all this long stuff, all that long stuff got to go. Oh, dude, that one really got me. Look at there. Bastard. Man, this pattern really sticks me. I've tied it now quite a few times, and it's really sticking me bad. Maybe we can come up with a vise one day where it doesn't do that to you. Dude, this one's really stuck me. Really stuck me. I'm bleeding bad. That's all right. So Next, we're going to get our eyes, and I'm just using some yellow lead painted eyes. Yeah, I'm standing there licking all this blood off. I'm trying not to get blood on everything. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because you're going to have, this is one hell of a hook eye here. And so, oops, sorry, I knocked my light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of place these. I don't want them directly up front. I don't want, well, I'm trying to show you. I don't want them directly up front like this, right? I'm actually going to seat them kind of more onto this material. And I don't know if I can do it all on camera, but you'll get the idea. And the reason why I want it on that material is because this material is providing a little lump and bump, which is actually getting my eyes further down to the bottom to help flatten out the belly of this fly. Got about 10 going one way. Whoa. Oop. About 10 going the other. So you don't, it doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to look great. Just as long as it's on there, and then, you know, we're going to glue it again because it's just kind of the way this thing is built. Glue it. So I'll add some glue right up in here. We're going to add some glue on the thread wraps underneath. And you can kind of let that set for a second. All right. Just make sure you're kind of centered on the bottom there. Yeah, so that's looking about good. So you can kind of see when this is drawn back. I don't have a wet version in front of me. So when this is drawn all back, after we add the fins and everything, this is going to be kind of somewhat, this is actually going to be appearing to be up a little bit below the fins. So next for the fins is the, I'm actually using 2 feathers. This is just an olive hen patch, super soft stuff, good thick stems to really help add support. And that's going to be the bottom part of the fin. And then the top part of the fin is just a ringneck pheasant that's dyed olive. And the feathers that I'm going for are just, here's the neck. Turn that back over. So here's your neck. As it comes down, you get into these guys that look kind of like this. I don't know if you can see that very well, but they look kind of like that. And so I'm going to use this part for the fin. If you've seen the Sculpin, they kind of have this mottled yellowish, brownish, olive-ish deal. And so I think this represents that pretty well. So what I'll do is I'll take these 2 feathers, which is just the that olive hen that I just showed, and then my ringneck pheasant. And I'm going to place these with the concave sides facing one another, or opposite of back to back, as it were. And we're going to get these things stuck. Not like my finger, but it's stuck. So your fin should be looking something like that. You kind of play with it. The whole idea here is that the difference between the two is that these feathers don't want to naturally go together this way, right? So what they're doing is they're forcing each other to stay sort of flat. At the same time, it's gonna allow some movement. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna invert my fly, and I want the sorry. I'm going to invert my fly. Let me lift that up a little higher. My bad. So I'm going to invert my fly, and I want the ringneck pheasant on top. So since I've inverted it, I'm going to turn that ringneck pheasant to the bottom. And I'm going to draw out the length I want my wing. or my fin, as it were. So I kind of go for something about half of the front part of the hook shank, which is about, well, it'd be a ½ inch, but from the front of the eye to the middle would be about 3/4 of an inch, if that makes sense. And I'm just going to lay these. I'm going to see if I can do this on the side. I'm going to lay these right on top like so, and we're going to try to do the old figure 8 here, which works to some degree, but we're going to add a few other I don't know, specialty wraps, I suppose. I don't know what you call it. We're going to add a few extra wraps. We're going to do something with the feathers, the stems too. So I've got about 3 there, so it sticks out to the side like so. Okay. Next, what I want to do is I'm going to draw all this forward. I'm going to place some wraps behind the eye, or the eyes. 2 is pretty good, so that it kind of sticks out sort of like that. You can see that. Oh, I'm riding a little bit high here. So it's sitting about something like that. It's kind of tough to do when I keep moving it around, so I'm going to redo that. Sorry, but I got to redo that so you can see the final product without moving it all around. I kind of realign everything here. Okay. Choke up on the thread a little bit. This part can be a little tricky, but we're going to lock these things into place so they stay in just a second. But I can't do it while they're flopping around everywhere. Okay, now it's on my side. I'm going to figure 8 it. Coming back the other way. Go right up under the eye. That's fine. You can go behind it, in front of it, whatever. Okay, so now once you have it on the side, like so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this from both stems. I'm going to pull it up the side of the eye that it's the closest to, which this happens to be the near side. Thing there got stuck again. Now I'm going to bring my thread behind both eyes with both stems, locking it in on the side of the eye, and put in 3 or 4 turns. And now I can come in and trim this out. Now with these stems being a little bit thicker, I use some duller scissors, or I've got some scissors that I just kind of naturally gravitate towards for stem for that purpose. So you should have your wing sitting about like that. And you can take all this off if you want. You can leave it, you can tie it back, whatever you want to do. Some people are like, hey, the more mess the merrier. I agree with that to some extent. So next, what we're going to do, I'm just going to cut that out. All right. Just going to lock that down. So there's your stem on the one side. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Again, concave sides touching. Invert the fly. Pheasant down. I'm just going to line up. The only thing I do different this time is I line up my wing with my first wing so that at least they match, right? So if it's a little long, then they're a little long. Nothing's worse than tying in one fin long and one fin short. So I gauge the second fin off the first fin. Okay, And these ones are just a touch long, but with 3 wraps I can kind of gently just pull it in a little bit to even it out. Okay. Now, the tricky part with all that stuff in the way, I'm going to pull everything forward, wrap around, and get a few turns in there. So that's like that. Again, I'm going to take my stems, roll them up the front side on the same side that the fin goes on. I'm going to roll them up and around the lead eyes. Put a few wraps in. Trim this out. And once it's all tied in and down, you can play with the position. We're going to glue this part too. I am going to get rid of most of this fuzz because I kind of like the pronounced look of the fins. So just be a little careful here on what you trim out. So you should have something that looks about like this at this point. Okay, I'm going to jump my thread to the front, put a few wraps in on the front side, and we're on the very last part of this, so anything that you want to fix or take care of on the front side of this, especially when it comes to those little fins, you want to do it here. So there you go. These ones aren't quite as rounded as the other ones, but it is what it is. They're going to be in the water anyway. So I just come through and I, glue the crap out of it again, just to make sure it holds up, at least for a while. Next, I'm going to create a dubbing loop right in front of the eye, or the eyes. Get that raised back up. Okay, just like so. I'm gonna put my double spinner in. Let me see if I can adjust my camera. Sorry, everybody. But I'm gonna put my dubbing spinner in, and I've already got preloaded the down part of this feather. Oh, that totally twisted on me. There we go. Untwist. Okay. Now I can wax this again. And then what I have here, that I've already got preloaded into a clip, is just the like the marabou-ish part, or the downy part of the same turkey flat that I used for the prop, or the well, normally I use them for a prop, but the overlay, I guess you could call it. So I'm going to insert that. I'm going to spread it out a little bit. I want to twist it up. Let go. Boom. I'm going to do the same thing. Pinch it, twist, let go, boom. I'm going to take my toothbrush, open it up, and I'm going to come through and start plucking this stuff out. This stuff gets in the way. Because what we're doing here is we're building the head. So this is kind of like a dubbing rope using the turkey flat marabou part of it. And if you leave a little in there, it's fine. you kind of do you here, right? All right, so next I'm going to take my, we're almost done, I promise. I'm going to take my hackle pliers and pinch onto the thread. I'm going to trim the thread out on the bottom side so my dubbing spinner is free. And next I'm just going to, I don't want that there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cross over my eyes and kind of figure eight the eyes. So go one behind, one over, one up and around. Oh, just a touch short there. Dang it. Let me try that again. Now just figure eight them and come back across the front. Normally I come right across that back. I have enough to come back up front. I didn't quite give myself enough on this one. Alright, we're going to get technical here. Grab that, cinch it in. There we go. And I'm just going to build a little head. Whip finish and you guessed it, glue it and call it done. They don't have to look perfect. When they get wet, the wings stay open, at least for the time being. If you get crushed a few times, you know, who knows, but they can always collapse. There you go. So a little bit of effort to get these guys done. I know several of you that had asked me to do this video were more interested in how I got my wings to stay open, or my fins, I should say. And that's how I do it. A little bit of finesse work with your thread. So glue it, and that's it. Oh, I'm gonna lift it up. So there you go, my articulated hin flat Sculpin. Well, if you've made it this far, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Like the video. Always happy to give it a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe to my channel. Always grateful for you to subscribe, and you can share it to anybody that might find this beneficial. You can also find me over on Facebook on Fly Tying for Beginners. I'm the admin over there. Answer the 4 questions and you're in. We do all kinds of fun stuff. International fly swap. We do kind of like people ask on how to tie this or that. We try to give tutorials, giveaways, classes. All of it's free. There's no admission fee or anything. It's just a bunch of good people having fun tying flies. So we'd be happy to have you over there too. So think about that. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed it, and happy tying, everybody. We'll see you next time. Take care.